Gina, looks like we have everyone.
Yes, it looks like everyone's there.
Are we waiting on any staff members?
Jennifer, are we waiting on Jason?
He's on vacation, I believe.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, no, Jason will not be joining us.
Okay.
All right, well, it's after 1:30, so I will call the meeting of the Board of Public Utilities for the City of Santa Rosa to order. If we may have a roll call, please.
Yes. Chairman Galvin?
Here.
Vice Chair Noni?
Here.
Board Member Badenfort?
Here.
Board Member Grable?
Here.
Board Member Mullen?
Here.
Board Member Watts?
Here.
Board Member Wright?
Here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Just a couple reminders. Please mute your phones or microphones when you're not speaking. And please put away all cell phones and personal computers. Do we have any statements of abstention by board members? Board Member Wright?
I have to abstain from item 6.1 because I worked for Green Valley less than, 9 months ago, not over a year, less than a year ago.
Very good, thank you. Any other board member abstentions? All righty, we'll move to item 3.1. Director Burke.
Yes, thank you, Chair Galvin. I'm happy to introduce that we will have 2 proclamations this afternoon, recognizing 2 of Water Department staff. The first proclamation will be for our current recording secretary, Gina Perez. The second will be for our Deputy Director of Regional Operations, Joe Schwall, who will be retiring, and tomorrow will be his last day. So I'd like to ask, please, if Gina could join on video and turn it back over to the chair.
There you are, Gina.
Hi, Gina.
I am honored to read the following proclamation for you, Gina. Whereas Gina Perez, Administrative Support Supervisor, has been the Secretary to the Board of Public Utilities since 2003, and whereas during her time as Recording Secretary to the Board of Public Utilities, the board increased from 5 to 7 members, and Ms. Perez has worked with 23 different board members during her tenure. And whereas Ms. Perez was appointed a Deputy City Clerk so she could administer the oath of office and has done so 10 times. And whereas Ms. Perez has posted agendas, minutes, and attended more than 400 Board of Public Utility meetings. And whereas Ms. Perez has also successfully supported numerous board subcommittees and ad hoc committees. And whereas Ms. Perez has cheerfully and expeditiously taken on any task or challenge assigned to her. And whereas Ms. Perez has been IT support, iPad guru, scheduler extraordinaire, and decisive selector of where to order over 400 lunches. And whereas Ms. Perez is known to have a perpetual smile on her face and a habit of saying yes to any request made of her. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Public Utilities of the City of Santa Rosa does hereby express our sincere and heartfelt appreciation to Gina Perez for her 17 years of distinguished service to the Board of Public Utilities of the City of Santa Rosa. And I'm happy to sign it, dated today, September 3rd. Yay. I'd ask if any other board members wish to make any comments before I let Gina make some comments. Board Member Wright?
Yeah, well, I've been on both sides of this thing with Gina as a board member, trying to figure out these iPads and all that stuff, and as a staff member, and I think the proclamation is right. She always says yes. She's always got that giggle, and she's always very helpful, and she's been wonderful to work with. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Board Member Watts?
Gina, thank you so much for everything. I mean, you're going to be sorely missed. I know we're going to enjoy working with Roberta as well, but it's going to be a gap in our meetings to see your face. And I just really appreciate your willingness to always help with whatever we need. And that's what you get for saying yes. You get stuck for 17 years, I think, doing it. So we really, really appreciate it. And please don't be a stranger. Come say hi, whether it's virtually or hopefully in person someday. And we'll miss you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Noni.
Well, I just have appreciated you so much, Gina, and you're helping me on board those many years ago and keeping us on track. And I guess the only silver lining to this whole thing, aside from the fact that we can say wonderful things about you, is that you will still be working for the city. So the fact that you're still going to be here, still contributing your service with the same wonderful attitude that you've always shown, and the same high level of competence and diligence, that's the only silver lining, that you'll still be with us. So congratulations on all of you've accomplished, and I hope you accomplish everything you want to accomplish in your career and beyond. So thank you again.
Board Member Mullen.
Thank you. Yes, Gina, you and I have interfaced a couple of times in recent years, and I always feel like I'm kind of riding a bus, and it's always nice to get on that bus and find that you're sitting next to me and going to guide the transition back and forth into this important work that we do. Also, I worked in local government and public service for about 35 years, and I appreciate very much how people like you are the people that really make what we do important and valued. And so I won't say goodbye to you because I know you're moving on to other things, but we'll say so long and we'll see you down the road. And I hope you have the same joy and accomplishments in your new position that you've left here in 17 years. So congratulations.
Thank you. Any other board members?
Sure, if I can. Oh,
go right ahead, Board Member Godfrey.
sorry. Thank you. I just wanted to say a wholehearted congratulations and thank you to Gina, echoing all of the sentiments of my fellow board members. The solid staff leadership that you exemplify every single time I speak with you or email with you. This doesn't work without people like you. So I am a little envious of who else gets to work with you and so appreciative. So thank you so much. We wish you the best and come back. Come back and say hi.
Thank you. Board Member Grable.
Yes, I'd like to echo my colleagues' comments and also just express my own deep gratitude for everything that you've done, your curatorial guidance through sometimes very complicated and bureaucratic processes, and you do it so well and kind of ease the stress of it all for so many of us because you are so good at it and very proactive too, so that we're always prepared before something comes or a technological issue arises. You seem to always have anticipated those things, and I think that's just a sign of deeply intellectual leadership and ability to really organize what probably sometimes feels like herding cats with us, but I'm just so appreciative and grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. Gina, I certainly echo everything that's been said. I know you're going to be equally as successful in your next endeavor with the city, just as you've been with us for the last 17 years. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I certainly hope you aren't a stranger, and I know our paths will continue to cross, and much good luck to you.
Chair Galvin, if I may indulge, since I get to be on the screen. I know there are so many people in the organization who are so grateful for everything that you do, Gina. So I feel really lucky to say how great it's been to work with you. There's so much behind the scenes that goes on in putting these meetings on a regular basis, and then all the other meetings that get scheduled with people who are busy, and you're always available and there and able to help us navigate. And I just wish you the best of luck in your next endeavor. So I know you're going to do great. And I won't say goodbye either because I know you're going to be here.
Thank you. I know we have a couple other staff members. If they're interested, they're willing to say something. All right, then we will turn it over to Gina for a few words.
Well, this is a first for me. I'm quite surprised. Thank you. 17 years ago when I applied for this position as a recording secretary, I really didn't have any clue what that all entailed. I jumped right in and took it on and learn every day something new, some new things, some better way to do things, and I take this responsibility greatly. I carry it greatly, and I appreciate all of you as well for your service, because I know this is a job that is completely volunteer, and I know how much time you all spend. And my role, or at least the way I see my role, is here to support you to be able to do the work that you do. And that's always my goal. I am always standing in the background, just trying to make sure that everybody has what they need. And I enjoy every day that I work for the city of Santa Rosa and what we do as a community. I live in this community, and I am so honored to be a part of the community and a part of this department. And I look forward to the new things I get to do. And I'll be sitting in another chair, but I'm still in the department, and I still hope to see all of you and be a resource to Roberta as well. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gina, for all you do. Great. So we now have a PowerPoint of a few pictures of Joe. So if Director Burke could instruct Gina to start that PowerPoint, I have a proclamation to read. Whereas Joseph Schwall was hired on July 9, 1990 as a wastewater operator number 2, and during his subsequent 30-year career held the positions of senior wastewater operator, treatment shift supervisor, wastewater treatment superintendent, and deputy director regional water reuse operations. And whereas Mr. Schwall was literally and figuratively head and shoulders above the rest, and his tall height came in handy after the big flood of 2005-2006, enabling him to wade knee-deep in water to ensure plant operations continued. And whereas Mr. Schwall has worked here so long that when the Trojan UV disinfection system was installed, UV was thought to be very, quote, high-tech, end quote. And whereas during his tenure, Mr. Schwall witnessed and was involved in many changes to water reuse operations, including the Geysers pipeline, the combined heat and power project, the high-strength waste receiving station, and the microgrid project. And whereas Mr. Schwall has positively influenced a generation of water employees by generously giving his time to educate, coach, and mentor, and whereas this is the 3rd time Mr. Schwall tried to retire from the water department, prompting staff to whisper in the hallways, quote, "How can we miss him if he won't go away?" End quote. And whereas Mr. Schwall is retiring and will be gainfully unemployed on September 5, 2020, succumbing to the luring vices of biking and gardening. And whereas, though he will be gone and greatly missed by all who had the pleasure to work with him, Mr. Schwall will live on in the many stories he leaves behind. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Public Utilities of the City of Santa Rosa does hereby express our sincere and heartfelt appreciation to Joseph Schwall for his 30 years of distinguished service to the Water Department of the City of Santa Rosa. And I was happy to sign this proclamation, and I know it will be presented to Joe. So Joe, congratulations on 30 distinguished years. We're definitely going to miss you and all your expertise and all your institutional knowledge, but know that you've earned your retirement, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it to the fullest, and may you have a long and healthy retirement years.
Thank you very much, Chair Galvin and members of the board. I'm a little overwhelmed. This is
I think before you get to talk, I think the other board members might have something to say.
Fine.
Why don't we start with Vice Chair Noni?
Good one. I like the way you take control of the meeting there, Mr. Chairman. And I got to tell you, Joe, what I appreciate most about you is how you are very deliberate in the way you present information. And you can tell that there's a lot that goes behind that. There's a lot happening under the hood, and it's very much appreciated. Your expertise just shines through when you make presentations, and it really helps us do our job, and it's been a great service to the city, and I hope you enjoy your retirement, but you will be missed. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Noni. How about we go to Board Member Wright?
Yeah, Joe, I have to say that when I first started working for utilities, before that, 13 years before I worked for utilities, I worked for Public Works. But Joe had the distinction at that time to be the HR person in utilities. I'm not, Joe's smiling, you remember. I'm not sure exactly what Miles's wisdom was, but he had Joe come in for 6 months or something like that in HR. And anyway, so he welcomed me into the utilities department when I transferred in. But also, working with Joe is, again, as a co-employee, it was always very comforting to have. Joe never took a vacation in January or February because it rains. And he wanted to be there to run those gauges and fill and empty those ponds and do all that kind of stuff. He was never gone during the winter time. Very, I don't know, it was fun to work with all the years. And I've enjoyed your presentations and things like that. It's the times we've worked on the 1 year I've been on the board. So congratulations, Joe. You'll love retirement. I sure do.
Board Member Mullen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Joe, having watched the evolution of the treatment plant in the last 30 years, I can see where your fingerprints have all been on the many tasks and roles that you've played there. And I've always been a big supporter of promoting people from within that show the initiative and the drive and the commitment to their work and doing it every single day. And someone like you, who obviously isn't afraid to get his hands dirty. It's a real tribute to sit here and send you off with this proclamation and honor and your service. And it's always, again, on the receiving end of a lot of your work, I always appreciate the way you talk to us in English, even though when the cameras go off, you may roll your eyes at something one of us says. But you always bring your information forward, and you create great confidence for a decision maker such as me when I listen to you and the information and the recommendations you make, because you've clearly earned that with your career and your performance here. And then lastly, with all the positions you've had and all the stress you've worked under, I wish I'd met you earlier to find out what your secret is for preserving your hair, because you still have a great head of hair. It's just changed color a little bit, but I wish I'd met you about 25 years ago. I maybe would have preserved some of mine later. So congratulations.
Board Member Watts.
Congratulations. It's a huge accomplishment, 30 years working in this department and all of the different things that you've worked on. It's quite amazing to see. I haven't, I think I've been on the board now for about 5 years, and every time you present, it is done in a way that I understand, which is very difficult to do given the expertise that you have to have in order to do your job. And I really appreciate that, and look forward to seeing whatever you do afterwards, whether it's gardening or taking on something else in the community. But I think it's a good time for you to retire. You've accomplished so much, and you should be really proud of all the work that you do, and just thank you for your years of service.
Thank you. Board Member Badenford.
Well, I echo my colleagues again, but thank you. I giggled because I didn't actually know that you had tried to retire 150 times in a row. So congratulations, it was successful this time. Being a fairly new board member, I had a lot to learn. I continue to have a lot to learn, and you are absolutely one of our staff that is a big help in that arena for the board, and it's so appreciated. I've also appreciated how you have listened and responded and been just such a good ear and a good professional through really difficult conversations, whether it's with supply problems or emergency declarations, etc. So that's a rare gift. It will be missed and very much appreciated. Thank you, Joe.
Board Member Grable.
Hi, Joe. Congratulations. I'm not only grateful, but for your service to the city and the board through what is now decades of really complicated and trying issues, but also just a lot of innovation. Even on the international metric, it seems like you've been there and probably driven a lot of the innovation that really sets us apart as a city from so many other places in terms of the cleanliness and safety and abundance of water and delivery service that we have. I also just wanted to thank you for what is seemingly more and more rare, which is, dedicated public servants with a depth of institutional knowledge and real deference to science and data and the ability to acknowledge when the data and the science shows us that we should course correct or that we should do something differently or that we should adopt a new technology or a new way of disposing of our wastewater in a geothermal, steam field, whatever it is, that just seems to be something that is just so valuable and even more so right now in this world. And so thank you. And it's probably a testament to why it's been so hard for you to retire, because that depth of institutional and practical and scientific knowledge is just so rare these days. And it's so valuable to a city, especially when folks' safety and the safety of our drinking water is on the line. So I think there is a depth to that, to the value of your service that I think most people probably, and myself included, will never truly understand. But I'm grateful, I'm humbled, and thank you for taking mercy and having mercy and grace on when we are wrong or don't quite understand a technical issue. You are always very thoughtful and merciful in your responses to us, even when it should be obvious that the answer is right in front of us in your presentation. So thank you again.
Thank you for your comments. Any staff wish to make any comments? Deputy or Director Burke?
Thank you, Chair Galvin. So it was 17 years ago, about this time, that Joe Schwall was the ASO for the department. It's how I met him when I joined the city. He may not remember, but he used to give me quite the hard time because he said I was a challenging employee to hire because he had to actually write a memo to the city manager to authorize my hiring, and that was the first time he had to do it. So he used to give me a bit of a hard time when I first joined the city. But I have had the great fortune to work with Joe in a number of different roles and to work with him through 2 MPDS permits, negotiating permits in different roles, and had the honor to be the one to hire Joe into the deputy director position that he has today. I'm so grateful to have worked closely with him for his leadership, his guidance, his steadiness, and also incredibly, incredibly grateful that he was willing to postpone his retirement once again to help us get through the initial response to the pandemic. He initially agreed that he would get us through. I don't think any of us knew how long the pandemic would last. So we finally came to the conclusion that he would be leaving us. I would love to have him stay. It has been just my absolute pleasure to work so closely with Joe. He leaves incredibly big shoes to fill and leaves us with a great functioning treatment plant and reuse system. And I wish him all the best in retirement.
If I may say a couple quick things.
You sure may.
Joe, I think the first time I really sat down and worked with you in depth was on the microgrid contract. And I knew right away that this was just another amazing expert team member from water. And it's always been a privilege, my privilege to learn from you every time we work together. And I just congratulations. Very well deserved retirement and an amazing career that you can be so proud of. And I know you're going to be really missed. So.
Thank you. I think we've hit everybody except the honoree. So Deputy Director Schwall, I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Chair Galvin. I appreciate it. I'm a little overwhelmed. These are, those are all wonderful comments. It's wonderful and gratifying to hear that my work has been appreciated and that my efforts have been acknowledged. And it's, I won't say it's a rare event, but it's always nice to hear. This job for me, and I consider the 30 years here as being one job, just different roles in that same job, has been incredibly fulfilling and gratifying for me. And I know that that's not what everybody can say at the end of their careers. And so I'm mindful of that. I'm mindful that I've been privileged to work for such a strong and progressive organization among many talented and dedicated co-workers. No one does anything in this industry or really in this world anymore on their own, and I'm no exception to that. There's been a huge team of people moving the line, so to speak, and keeping the ball rolling and keeping the water flowing. And I'm just very grateful to have had the opportunity to do that. And I do want to take this opportunity to echo what Gina said, to thank the board and thank your predecessors for the volunteer work that you have done to ensure the fiscal and physical health of our infrastructure and our organization. It's a vital role that you play for our community, and I want to applaud you for that. It's obviously an incredibly needed role, and I really appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody on staff does as well. So I had written about a 4-paragraph little talk to give, and I read it this afternoon, and it was just too formal and stilted. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't leave something on the table that I wanted to say, but I think just my heartfelt thank you is really what it comes down to. And this organization is really strong, really filled with great people, and it's gone strong for 30 years, and it'll go strong again for another 30. As long as we're able to attract and retain the quality of people that we have here today. So I know the organization will continue well beyond me, and I just have nothing but best wishes and highest regards for everybody in the future. So thank you very much.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I just may say, I think the chair should pay close attention to board member Wright's example, because there will be vacancies on this board in the future. So you may just want to keep that in mind.
Good point. All right, so we are now going to take any public comments on item 3.1. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Perez, do we have anybody on the line?
I do not.
Okay, well, that will conclude our proclamations. Again, much congratulations to both of you. It was an honor to be able to read those proclamations, and we appreciate all that you've done for the department. Item 4 is the approval of the minutes. We are now taking public comments on the minutes approval. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Do we have any comments?
I do not.
Thank you. We'll now move to our staff briefing. Director Burke.
Thank you, Chair Galvin and members of the board. Our staff briefing today is preparing for public safety power shutoffs, or PSPS, and Deputy Director Local Operations, Joe Schwall, will be making the presentation.
Thank you. Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now.
Okay. I was waiting to see the slide was going to resume.
Yeah, give us 1 second on the slide.
Okay. Sorry, Gina. It dropped me off for one moment.
No problem. Okay, Joe, we're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Galvin, members of the board. I'm here today to brief you on the Water Department's preparation for this year's Public Safety Power Shutoffs, or better known as PSPS. Next slide, please. So for public safety, PG&E continues to rely on proactively turning off electricity when gusty winds and dry conditions, combined with heightened fire risk, are forecast as a way to minimize the potential fire risk caused by their infrastructure. This action is commonly referred to as Public Safety Power Shutoff, or PSPS. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. Go back one, Gina. Thank you. These events will essentially happen when we are experiencing red flag fire conditions and the forecast calls for low humidity and high wind speeds. PG&E will only proactively turn off power when extreme fire danger conditions are forecast. And not every red flag event will qualify for a shutdown. They must be accompanied by the high winds I mentioned and other factors before PSPS will be activated. Customers in high fire threat areas are more likely to be affected, but any electric customer, including City of Santa Rosa residents, could have their power shut off if a line that supplies power to our community passes through a high fire threat area. Next slide. PG&E continues to work with the city to help us understand how these events will impact our systems. The Water Department, along with other departments, have been gathering information from PG&E, trying to get as much information as possible on the anticipated impacts of any future outage, the potential duration of these outages, and the operational details on how power will be restored. PG&E has informed us that we should expect these events to be shorter and impact fewer customers than they have in the past. The duration of the outage will still depend on how long the weather event is and how long it takes for PG&E crews to inspect their lines after the power has been shut off. PG&E is still required to inspect all their power lines before they re-energize the system. Next slide, please. PG&E is continually monitoring several weather stations and has agreed to notify us as much as 48 hours in advance. We will remain in contact with them until the outage occurs, through the outage, and until power is restored. Designated members of the city EOC team will participate in conference calls leading up to the event. We intend to be as ready as possible before the power is actually shut off. PG&E is continuing to use calls, text, emails, social media, local news, and radio to spread information about their PSPS. And they have also added a PSPS dashboard to their webpage. Several of the incident commanders for the Water Department Operations Center have attended webinars on PG&E's new PSPS dashboard. And this tool is meant to better inform customers and provide more accurate information on the location and the duration of the outages, which seemed to be a bit of an issue last year for us to really pinpoint the locations. It is still important for the public to make sure that PG&E has their contact information so they can be notified about pending PSPS as well. The city, again, has provided the PG&E with 24-hour contact information for essential staff so that we can be contacted should this event happen somewhat unexpectedly, although we don't anticipate that to happen. Next slide. We do anticipate these events will impact our regional operations, local operations, and some of the private systems that are connected to our infrastructure. To be better prepared for these events, we're reviewing and drafting new standard procedures to ensure they match the needs of an extended power outage, as well as complying with the most recent COVID-19 restrictions. These include continuing to refine and improve our procedures for the Water Department Operations Center, which we like to refer to as our DOC, clarifying trigger points for the Emergency Operations Center activation, identifying resources and the availability of additional resources, knowing that others will be needing similar resources at the same time we are. We're also preparing staff for the potential activation of these emergency operations centers because they do impact their regular schedule. We typically go to a 24/7 operation when one of these events happen. And we have refined our generator fueling plans to ensure our backup generators can be supplied with the necessary fuel needed to last the entire event. We've also secured the necessary personal protective equipment for the staff that will be working these 24-hour shifts, again, helping to make sure that we're complying with the current COVID restrictions. Next slide. Regional operations is the highest user of electrical power for the water department. And fortunately, they also have a robust backup generator power supply, and regional staff has experience operating during a loss of PG&E power. Next slide. The Laguna treatment plant is supported by several backup generators. The treatment facility has two 2-megawatt generators that automatically turn on when they sense the loss of power. These generators are supplied fuel from a 15,000-gallon fuel tank that should supply enough fuel for the treatment plant to operate for several days. The treatment facility can also support its power needs by operating any of its 4 1.1 megawatt combined heat and power, or CHP generators. The CHP generators can supplement the facility's power and help conserve fuel, so the 2.2 megawatt generators can actually operate longer on the fuel supply that they have on site. This extends the period of time the treatment plant can operate on backup power should they need to go longer than anticipated. Next slide. We anticipate these events will impact our geysers and reclamation systems. The pumps that operate the geysers pipeline are not supported with backup generator power. So during the loss of power, the geyser system will essentially be shut down. We will still be able to move water through our reclamation system so we can direct flows to different storage ponds. And unfortunately, we will not be able to supply water to all of our ag customers because the pump stations at farms and ranches do not have backup generator power. We have started the process of informing our ag users about the impacts of a PSPS, along with additional emails via email, or I'm sorry, additional details via email. Next slide. As I'm sure we're all aware, we know these events impact our local operations, water distribution, and sewer collection systems. We saw quite a few impacts last year. they can potentially impact some of the critical facilities as well, such as Water Station 4 or the Utility Field Operations Building. Next slide. Because the majority of our water supply comes to us via the aqueduct system, about 95%, we've been working with our supplier to better understand their backup plan as well. We've actually been in almost constant communication with Sonoma Water lately through all the events that have been going on and discussing other backup scenarios as well. But we continue to work with Sonoma Water, and they've assured us that their facilities are supported with backup power generation and will be functioning normally during a PSPS event. We have created an operating procedure that will allow us to operate our Farmers Lane wells with backup power if needed. But unless we saw an interruption to our supply, which we don't anticipate, we would likely not operate wells or the well treatment facility during a PSPS event. Next slide. So the map you see shows all of the pressure zones for our water distribution system. If you notice the area in light blue on the left-hand side, we refer to this area as the aqueduct zone or central city. We don't anticipate this portion of our distribution system will be impacted from a PSPS event. The aqueduct zone will remain unchanged because the water and pressure are provided by the aqueduct. And as I mentioned, Sonoma Water will continue to operate on backup power as necessary. It is important to note the aqueduct zone consists of approximately 65% of our customers. So in this case, that's good news. And all other areas, basically what you see on the right side of the map, are reservoir fed zones that rely on our water pump stations to fill reservoirs and to pressurize the zone. So the remaining 45% of our customers are supplied water through one of our 31 reservoir fed pressure zones. Next slide. Our tanks or reservoirs need very little power to operate, only enough to run SCADA or telemetry and our monitoring equipment for those reservoirs or tanks. These systems have backup battery power that allows us to monitor tank levels and chlorine residuals remotely through our SCADA system. Our operations team has developed a procedure to rotate these batteries that act as a backup system during an extended PSPS event so that we can have constant communication with the tanks. I should also mention that many of our reservoirs can and will be powered by our backup generators at the connecting pump station. In many cases, we have already run power supply from the pump station to the tank to better handle PG&E outage, especially if it's for a long duration. Next slide. Fortunately, all our water pump stations have backup generator power. These generators can operate for an extended period of time and will be supported by one of our many refueling procedures. We have already determined how long each generator can operate with the available fuel supply, and as needed, have several options to refuel. We can also operate our pump stations with portable diesel pumpers that can connect to each station in the event of a generator failure. And we're very fortunate that our pump stations are already plumbed in a way that allow us to connect these pumpers really quickly if needed. Next slide. Our local sewer collection system is supported by 17 sewer lift stations. All but 3 of these stations have the stationary generators on site. And of the 3 that don't have generators, 1 is pre-wired for a mobile generator and pre-plumbed for a portable generator if needed. The other 2 stations are very small and have very low flow into the station, and we plan to service these stations with our cleaning trucks when needed. All of our sewer lift stations, including the 3 without generators, have a similar battery backup system to our tanks or reservoirs that will continue to power our programmable logic controllers that will allow us to continuously monitor wet well levels remotely through our SCADA system. So we will know in advance when to send the truck over to service the station. Next slide, please. Fortunately, the utility field operations building can operate at normal capacity with the stationary generator that we have at the facility. The utility field operations building is a location of the City Emergency Operations Center and the Water Department Operations Center. And both regional operations and local operations have already secured portable generators that are currently stored at both the regional facilities and the utility field operations facility. These portable units can be deployed to any of our facilities that experience a generator failure or that we have another issue. Should a portable generator be a better option than a portable pump? Next slide, please. We also recognize the need to inform our customers that they may be impacted if they have a water booster pump, a sewer grinder pump, or a private lift station that connects to our infrastructure. These are important pieces of private infrastructure that are operated and maintained by the private property owners. It's important that our community be prepared to operate these systems with backup power during a PSPS. Next slide, please. Private wells are also private infrastructure that are operated and maintained by the private property owner. And if, excuse me, if this is a resident or commercial property owner's only source of water, it's important that they be prepared to operate these systems with backup power. Next slide, please. To help inform our community that they will need to have a plan to operate these private systems, we're using several methods of communication and outreach to spread the word. Specific information regarding these private systems is located on srcity.org, the water news item. We're sending letters to the customers that we believe have private water and sewer systems, informing them that they will need a backup power supply for their systems to operate properly. We will also be sending emails to the ag community to inform them that they will be impacted, as I mentioned before. And we want to spread the word that SoCo Alerts is the best way for residents to stay informed about threats to themselves and to their property. Residents will need to sign up at socoalert.com. You can also go to srcity.org, know your alerts, for more information. The more we as a city and our customers understand about these PG&E plans and their plans to inform us on when the power will be shut off and how long they anticipate we will be without power, and also how and when power will be restored, the better we can be prepared as a community. Next slide, please. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Deputy Director Schwall. I'll open it up now to any board member comments or questions. Board Member Mullen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation, Joe. I appreciate the presentation and the information shared. I wanted to go back to the comment you made about the potential impact on the reuse system and our ag users. And you mentioned you were going to be doing some additional outreach with them regarding this, which is great to hear because, you know, we got that letter a short time ago about the drought conditions and how somehow we were hiding the ball and dropping the ball as far as our interface with them and our ability to deliver water in those sort of conditions, one of which we can't control. The same appears to be true with the potential of a power interruption from PG&E, another impact that we can't control. We can only try to work our way through that. So my question is, you indicated that there's the possibility that some of our ability to deliver recycled water would be interrupted because of the loss of power. Is that correct?
That is correct, due to the sort of individual pump stations at the different ranches.
So if that's the case, do we have water to the meter, or we have water back in the ponds? Does the interruption take place at the meter, or does it take place back at the city's storage ponds?
So I believe the answer, and Deputy Director Schwall can weigh in if this is not correct, but I believe we would have power to the meter. So our reclamation system still has the ability to move water from pond to pond and to different locations. It's just the pump stations that then feed that recycled water to the individual locations that get interrupted.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you for that. So in our outreach to the ag users, will we also be pitching to them the same thing we're going to do with private well owners, is to encourage them to develop or have standby power sources available in a situation like that to help mitigate the loss of the ability to irrigate if they had planned to irrigate for some whatever length of time the power outage may last? Would we be including that in our outreach to them to then encourage them to invest in some standby power?
Joe, I'm here. I'm back available to talk if you'd like me to answer that.
Sure, Deputy Director Schwall, if you would like to, just to be more clear on the specifics, that would be great.
Sure, thank you. To answer your question, Board Member Mullen, we're being clear with them that it's what our capabilities are, and we are leading it to them to decide how best to manage that with their businesses. In most cases, it's really just this PSPS event. In October, November, it's late enough in the irrigation season that it's usually an inconvenience rather than a critical problem for them. And so my guess is that it probably, just based on PSPS event response, it wouldn't really be necessarily in their best interest to invest in such an infrastructure. But that's obviously that's their decision.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other board member questions or comments? Hearing none, we are now going to take public comments on item 5.1. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Perez, do we have anyone?
There are no raised hands.
Thank you. That will take care of item 5.1. Thank you, Deputy Director Schiavone. We'll move to the consent calendar, item 6.1. We have one item.
I'll move the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Motion by Vice Chair Noni. Was that Board Member Watts that seconded it?
Badenford.
Oh, Badenford, I'm sorry.
No problem, thanks.
Seconded, okay. I will now open it up for any public comments on item 6. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Do we have any public comments?
We do not.
All right, if we may do a roll call vote, please.
Yes. Chairman Galvin?
Aye.
Vice Chair Noni?
Aye.
Board Member Badenford?
Aye.
Board Member Grable?
Aye.
Board Member Mullen?
Aye.
Board Member Watts?
Aye.
Board Member Wright?
Abstain.
Thank you. So passes 6 ayes and 1 abstention. That'll conclude the consent calendar. We have no report items. Item number 8 is public comments. We are now taking public comments on item 8. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Thank you. We have no referrals. We have no written communications. We have no subcommittee reports, I believe, because we haven't had any subcommittee meetings. Any board member reports? Hearing none, we'll move to the director's report.
Thank you, Chair Galvin and members of the board. A couple quick items just for the board. Wanted to let the board know, you might recall that we participated in the 2020 Wyland National Mayor's Challenge for water conservation. It ended on Monday, August 31st. It was exciting for a bit. We were in first place for our population, which was really amazing. Unfortunately, the last time we checked, we had slipped down to fourth place for cities that are similar in size to us. So we won't know the final number of pledges until the week of September 21st. So they'll be calculating and tabulating all the pledges and then announcing those winners the week of September 21st. I do want to thank the board and the council for their support and the mayor for bringing this challenge to our attention. It's the first time we've participated, and it was a fun way to get the word out to our customers about water conservation and also provide a little information and marketing for our Water Smart programs. And then second, I wanted to just update the board. As you know, the water department has been sort of in communication constantly with Sonoma Water in relation to the Walbridge fire and the potential impacts to initially the concerns and threats to their facilities. Thankfully, nothing happened there. But now we're continuing to talk with them with regard to potential watershed impacts and how that may or may not impact Lake Sonoma. So approximately 5 miles of shoreline around the northeast arm of Lake Sonoma was burned and affected by the Walbridge fire. And there is potential for water quality impacts, potentially due from either ash or debris getting into Lake Sonoma. On Tuesday of this week, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers toured Lake Sonoma with Sonoma Water, and the Corps is focusing on assisting the watershed recovery efforts to protect water quality in Lake Sonoma, Dry Creek, and the fish hatchery. And a lot of work needs to be done before rain arrives. Sonoma Water has provided a video on their website detailing their initial planning to address concerns surrounding the watershed. They will be relying on state and federal disaster partners to address the recovery, and the focus will be on proactive shoreline erosion and watershed management measures, as well as rural road repairs and addressing burned hillsides. There is additional information on the Sonoma Water's website, which is www.sonomawater.org/fire. And we will continue to be working with and talking with Sonoma Water and getting updates on their efforts as this progresses. And that's the end of my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from the board with regards to the director's report? Seeing none, we're now taking public comments on item 13. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Do we have anybody?
We do not.
Okay, that will conclude item 13. Item 14 is a closed session. I would ask Assistant City Attorney McLean to announce the closed session.
Thank you, Chair Galvin, members of the board. We will be having a closed session today with legal counsel on anticipated litigation, one case, and we'll convene to our separate Zoom call for that purpose.
Okay, we're now taking public comments on item 14.1. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Do we have anyone?
We do not.
Okay, then I would ask all the board to please disconnect from this meeting and reconnect to the closed session with the Zoom information you have, and we will adjourn to closed session. Looks like we're just waiting for Board Member Grable.
That looks correct. Looks like everybody is on now.
Thank you. Then if you would go ahead and do a roll call, please, Secretary Perez.
Yes, Chairman Galvin,
Here.
Vice Chair Noni,
Here.
Board Member Badenfort,
Here.
Board Member Grable, Board Member Grable, I'll go back. Board Member Mullen,
Here.
Board Member Watts,
Here.
Board Member Wright.
Here.
Do we have Board Member Grable? Board Member Grable? He appears on, but I don't have a response.
Shows that he's a participant, but it doesn't show that he's got his mic or obviously video on.
Yeah. So I will.
We do have a quorum. It's up to the chair. We want to proceed.
Let's go ahead and Assistant City Attorney McLean, if you would report out on a closed session item.
Okay, thank you, Chair Galvin, members of the board. We did discuss 14.1 in closed session, and staff did receive direction from the board, and we will be taking this item to City Council on November 15th.
Very good. November 15th? September 15th.
I meant September. I'm getting ahead of myself.
That's okay.
Thank you for the correction.
All right, no problem. Thanks to all of you for being there, being here, and we will join the meeting today in honor of soon-to-be retired Deputy Director Joe Schwall. So have a good afternoon, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.